Hey everybody, you know, this is really becoming a real thing, this stop at the Starbucks. I started it just as a kind of a little side. On my commute, I used to stop here once in a while. I have about a 50-minute, 1 hour commute, 100 miles every day, round trip. And then I would spot halfway on my route, and I would stop here, oh pardon me, if I was a little tired, just to refuel a little bit. Excuse me. But lately I've been stopping here more out of course. Ooh, feels like a little claustrophobic in there, in the helmet there. So I got a lot I want to talk about tonight. Well, first of all, let me just mention the Starbucks thing. Again, I hadn't finished that thought. Is that I stopped here and I would use that opportunity to answer my email, and I really am enjoying this process, and I'm really getting some fascinating correspondence. Really enjoying the email that I'm getting. So let's hit the road and let's talk about a few things. First of all, I just want to continue a thought from yesterday. I was inspired to make that little short video about the Millennials and the Gen Xers, you know, giving them props for just being themselves, and being the fact that they are the generation that is now inheriting, generations that are now inheriting everything, and I have great confidence in them, not necessarily because they're any better than any other generation, but just by virtue of this circumstance of being who they are. That the young generations are always coming up and are often well endowed by their circumstance with the tools and the aptitudes necessary to succeed. So congratulations, Millennials and Gen X's. You are well qualified to run the world of the 21st century. Can't wait to see what you're going to do in the time I have remaining. But along that line, I wanted to share with you something that happened today that rang that point home. I had my first day of a 3 full days of training for a class. It's got a very boring name, but it's actually really fascinating. The title of the course is Eliciting, Writing, and Communicating Effective Product Requirements, or Effective Requirements. Yeah, eliciting, writing, and communicating effective requirements. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, the only thing more boring than that possibly could be a book on risk management. And what does it say about me that both of those topics are now immensely fascinating to me? I'm really enamored of business protocol and best practices. And well, you know what the reason is that with my job, I can succeed if I understand those things, and I fail if I don't understand those things. And failing hurts. Doesn't just bruise the ego. It makes the days go by very hard when I don't know what I'm doing. And because whether I know what I'm doing or not, I'm in a position where I'm going to have to be I'm expected to know what I'm doing. So it's a much better, happier day if I can pass the day doing something I actually understand what the heck it's all about. So this class is for business analysts, BAs as they're called, who have the job of, for example, taking product or service requests from business and or requirements or requests, basically business cases, business needs, and translating new products, new services, new ventures with business, and translating those into effective documents that effectively and clearly capture what needs to be done, so that the project then can be handed to a project manager, who's a different person usually, who can then design and execute a project to fulfill those needs. So if you have a good needs analysis up front, then we know what we're going to do. If we're going to build a mousetrap and we clearly identify what the purpose of the mousetrap is and the specifications related to the mousetrap and who the customer is and what their particular wants are relative to that, then, and we can clearly and accurately communicate that, then when we hand that over to the people that actually do the work, they're going to have a much higher chance of success. So that's what this was all about. 3 days of it, and oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I'm working through my lunch break, writing requirements samples to send to the instructor. I'm going to think to myself, who is this guy? Me, that's doing this and enjoying it. So, but anyway, even though that's the case, I want to get to the point. The point was there are 17 people in this class, and most of them are millennials. And let me just define. I think a millennial, the proper definition of a millennial, is someone who came into adulthood around the turn of the century, year 2000 or so. So if you were 18-ish around year 2000, then I think that makes you a millennial. I'm stand to be corrected if I'm off base on that. But so that makes these people, these are 30-somethings now for the most part, and these are young professionals. And man, are they sharp! And a lot of people in this class are these millennials, and man, are they sharp! And so we're having these discussions, and my answers are beginning, not just with this class, but just in general, are beginning to sound like old guy answers. I can hear it, and I always worried that I wouldn't know that was happening, but I can see it happening, which makes me wonder how much of it's going on that I don't see. Well, anyway, there's these young adults are smart, quick, and relevant to the circumstances of their world, and I really felt good to see that in the process, because I'm 53, almost 54 years old. I got another decade or two left in me. 13 years actually. I'm not completely out of the picture yet, but I'm glad to see that the young ones are coming up. So congratulations to you millennials and Gen Xers, and to have the instructor going over all of the career path certifications that are open to further education and to make them even more qualified, and it's very exciting. So that was another thing I was thinking about maybe doing a new YouTube series on the channel, a new playlist, and I'm thinking about calling it Diary of a Project Manager. Even though I'm an analyst, I spend most of my time doing project management, which is a very different role. I thought maybe that would be fun to kind of share, not details about where I work, that's private, but share about the processes, the career the careers of project manager or analyst, business analyst. If anyone wants to get into that, how they might get into that, what kind of skills they might have, how to develop a resume, and most importantly, what these jobs actually do and how to do the jobs. I wonder if anybody would be interested in that. So maybe I might try with that. I can imagine using this time to talk about those things. On to other topics. I got an interesting email from a gentleman with a tempting offer. He's a bit of a historian of the desert, the Mojave Desert in particular, and he's offered to share with me his secret spots, secret bits of history places. And I've heard of these places, and usually these places are well guarded. The old timers, so to speak, that know their way around the desert. I've talked to a couple of them, like that gentleman out at the Bottle Tree Ranch on National Trails Highway between Victorville and Barstow. He told me about several places that he said I know where they are, but he wasn't about to tell me. Anyway, this gentleman that contacted me, he's been following my videos, and he offered to share with me the locations to these places, and he did so for a specific reason. He noted that when I share what I find in the desert, I don't typically identify the location. And he's right, I don't, except for Siberia, which is very clearly identified. Pretty kind of hard to hide that. And that was the same in Japan too. I almost never shared the locations. My Siberia of Japan was the Nagakuma Mura, which is the village of the Long Bear, which I often talked about. That would be my Siberia of Japan. Now, so he sent me an email over the weekend with actually some they're waving at me, the guy on the bike, with some photos and some locations. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet in detail, but I may give some of these a try. Part of me is reluctant, not for the only reason I might be reluctant to do this is that it's not usually my style to go after something in pursuit of a particular something. I prefer to go to places in pursuit of nothing. if you follow my drift, not to have a plan. I like how the adventures just kind of unfold when I don't know what's out there. The places that I've so far found in the desert were found because I basically found some place that I could just leave the motorcycle and then walk straight off into the wilderness, not knowing what was out there. Typically into a landscape and a direction that doesn't look very interesting. If you go to Siberia and you look north into towards the deep water wilderness, it doesn't look interesting. I mean, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine what drew me there in the first place. Probably the fact that it didn't look interesting. So I'm going to give it some thought. And if he sees this, if I don't go to any of these places, it's not because I didn't appreciate your effort. I just have to kind of get a different frame of mind, a different plan if I'm going to do that. Now let's see, it's 6 o'clock, 6:07. I'm all caught up on my email, and I've got a good life meditation video in the can. Oh, I remember what I wanted to talk about. I have to be careful about, I don't want to talk about email that people send me in any way that makes them feel uncomfortable or gives away who they are, but definitely don't want to make anybody feel comfortable. But I got an email today that is similar to, I've probably received 3 such email in the 10 or 11 years I've been on YouTube. And let me just say, this is from a man who basically has the desire to adventure, but a body that won't cooperate in that desire. And he wrote to me to let me know that he appreciates the going alone, the adventure videos, and the kind of the rough, fun, edited, just here we are, let's go take a look around, which is a style that kind of came out of Japan, where we just kind of lift the camera, turn the camera on, and let it run for 30 minutes or an hour, and then whatever was the result was the result. And it had the unintended consequence of having a very I think there's a special word, there's a little acronym that I hear Victor use sometimes now, that kind of, it's almost like you're there in the moment. That style has that, and I've received email from people telling me that especially when I'm using the really good camera, that it almost feels like they're there. And this gentleman wrote to me to let me know that even though his body won't let him experience such places the way he'd like to, he gets the second best opportunity is to come there with me via my camera. Now I'm telling you, if you want to give me a boost of what is it? It's the opposite of kryptonite for Superman. Whatever it is that made Superman. Oh, let's not use. I don't think he had anything. He was just always strong. I'm not like that. Spinach for Popeye. If you want to give me a good boost of spinach and heighten my resolve and confidence, that's exactly the type of message I need. Because I literally I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation and I've looked up. Remember before I was just talking about the nothing and the nowhere, and it's like, well, that doesn't look very interesting. Why the heck did I ever come here? I've had that happen so many times where I've had the camera and I've questioned, should I make a video? Should I turn it on? This is boring. Who cares about this? And I've gone ahead and done it because I remember the email that I received from people like this gentleman. So thank you for that. I owe my resolve to you, and I really do appreciate that you would choose to spend some time coming with me vicariously. I'm sorry that if you and others particularly enjoyed the Japan part, I'm sorry that's over. I've gotten a number of email from that, and which is I expect to understand. I expect, basically, telling me that they missed the Japan, and that's to be expected. Well, whereas my Japan story was over, I certainly wouldn't expect that to be the case simultaneously for everybody else. I hope that you can find others that can give you that. I know there's a large new crop of capable, interesting YouTubers over in Japan, and I hope one of them will provide, one or more of them will provide that. Excuse me. So we're doing 80 miles an hour right now on the 55 southbound. Amazingly light traffic. Where normally we would be hitting some traffic right about now. So I have yet to do to get home, and then I want to upload the Good Life video that I did this morning. It wasn't that something, I don't know if you guys saw the one I did yesterday, but I started the one yesterday off with the visor down the way it is now, and the audio was very good. In fact, I think I have to try to remind myself to speak more softly, because the helmet is so well sealed that if I speak too loud, it's almost tinny, or it's just too loud. Here we go. Here's the traffic. I need to get over it because I'm going to move on to the 5. And so in the video yesterday, I immediately raised the visor like this, thinking that would improve the audio, and it made it noisy. I don't know if it is now, but it did. Let's move over. And so the remaining video was kind of noisy. It was an okay Good Life. It had an interesting bit at the beginning, which I had never done before. That's what I love about doing the Good Life live. I did a little bit where talking about patent answers, canned solutions that, and I'm going to, for the risk of actually repeating myself, that this is the exact word I used yesterday, was that front-loaded, or that cultures are front-loaded with answers that, just by virtue of the fact of being born into the culture, were offered. And if we accept them, we can get by pretty well, because there's a lot of other people who believe that as well, and who won't challenge us, and we'll have company, fraternity, being, of course, just companionship, others who believe, and community and acceptance. Problem is that you have to believe. So rare that those things are justified on their own right, that they can stand on their own 2 feet without just believing. It's just is it a weakness I've got? If it is, I'm grateful for it. I wish I had more of it. I just can't just believe. It just seems like such a shortcut. It's like doing a maze puzzle with your pencil and just shooting the kind of a little narrow here, shooting the line across all the barriers right to the goal, and saying that's the route. It's like, now you want to know, you cheated. You didn't you didn't do the hard work of getting there. You just decided you were there. That's what it feels like. No, that doesn't mean that all the patent answers in society are like that, but a lot of them seem to be. A lot of it's wisdom. I guess, what am I doing? I'm beating around the bush again. It's religion. Religion's the one I have the problem with, because religion requires us to believe supernatural stories of the supernatural, and that stories that are just offer us answers that we don't have to that don't have to prove themselves. I think you get the point. I'll stop on that now. So, but that was new, that I kind of dwelled on that yesterday, and I like that about doing the good life like that. I did another good life this morning. Whoa, this guy's coming over. Fortunately, he used his blinkers. It was a shorter one this morning, but it was okay. So I'll upload that as well. I've resolved to just upload them all. Although I changed the thumbnails a little bit. It's the same thumbnail, but just with different colors. It says it's a copy of The Good Life, and then of Going Alone, a picture of Going Alone, and then the words The Good Life, a human operating system. And I know that's kind of weird to put the Going Alone on there, but it's because I haven't written the book The Good Life yet. And The Good Life is a chapter within Going Alone, so I guess that's a stretch. Well, I'm going to go ahead and either cut off now, or I'll leave it running if anything else comes up to talk about. Otherwise, I'm going to turn some music on. What do you think I'm going to listen to tonight? Bet you it's going to be some Chainsmokers. I bet you're right. Not just any Chainsmokers, but Paris. I love that song. There we go. Now we're in the carpool thing. Now we're cooking with oil.